This is Dr. Kasia Kynes, CEO and founder of EBV Global Institute, and I am here today to talk about food and brain fog, especially for the community with EBV. So let's get started. Today we're going to talk about two big issues: the oxidative stress / free radical damage, and then the concept of glucose. So let's get started. And hello everyone who is on with us live. Well, the very first thing that we have to keep in mind is that EBV creates massive amounts of oxidative stress, which is free radical damage. And so that creates that brain fog. Sometimes the virus is in the brain actually, making it worse. So that's just one level of it. So if we talk about that, in order to make the downgrade that brain fog a little bit in terms of antioxidant support, you just need to mega dose on antioxidants in the diet. So if we talk about free radical damage, brain fog coming from that, free radical damage coming from EBV, the easiest way to remember about turning down the volume on that oxidative stress is antioxidants, right? I just mentioned that. And if you look at the food groups, so I'm not going to give you a particular, 3 foods to eat, but I want to kind of zoom out and give you a concept, which is much easier to maneuver in your life with foods. So if you look at the food groups that don't have much antioxidant value are foods derived from animals. So, whether it's red meat or poultry, eggs have a little bit of antioxidants, but not too much. So that tells you that that shouldn't be the foundation of your diet. Where are antioxidants? Antioxidants are in seeds, nuts, and it's not true you cannot eat nuts when you have EBV. The whole group of whole grains, but gluten-free, and not the grain products. I mean real grain. You buy buckwheat in bulk and you cook it. You buy quinoa in bulk and you cook it. You buy quality, teff of millet or brown rice or black rice or red rice. They are delicious, cooked properly. They have high antioxidant value and a lot of other values as well that they tag along. But today we just talk about the brain fog. So they can stabilize you. Another food group that we like to exclude from our diet because of a lot of claims in functional medicine, and I have a bone to pick with those claims. They're not exactly accurate, not for everyone, and if you don't test, you don't know, is the legumes, beans and lentils. It's a very healing group, very high in antioxidants. If you go to my ebvhelp.com, to my blog sections, there's an entire blog on EBV diet. We talk about antioxidant value. There's a ranking system that was created years ago called ORAC. And, like black beans are very high on ORAC. The functional medicine tends to say that legumes and beans are dangerous, they have anti-nutrients and so on and so forth. This is not entirely true. That's a different topic for a different day. If you have problems with these food groups like whole grains, gluten-free, or whole legumes, then the problem is most likely in the gastrointestinal tract, infections, co-infections, mold exposure, whatever that is. You want to heal that for SIBO infection maybe. So the foods are not villains, the whole foods are not villains. So these are, what else? Fruits and vegetables, of course. Fruits are probably the highest on the antioxidant list, and so they are particularly beneficial. They also have a high water content, high fiber content, and they're delicious. So they're great between snacks. So that's one. The other concept is of glucose being the driver of your brain and deciding on the quality of your brain function. Whether you have EBV or not, it's also worse when you have EBV, of course. But glucose is misunderstood. I want to talk about that a little bit because it drives me crazy. I've been teaching this for almost 20 years, and I live by these principles and doing very well in our community as well. And it makes a lot of sense, and it's very pertinent to the community with EBV. So just a few more minutes about that glucose. I have heard so many bad things about glucose, but if you look at what glucose feeds your brain. If you don't provide glucose for the brain literally goes in like neurosis. I'm gonna die. It doesn't save glucose for later. That's the basic fuel. So glucose is the smallest particle of sugar. Yes, you can get glucose from, sugar cubes and candy, and you can get glucose from white potatoes, sweet potatoes, quinoa, brown rice, beans. Quality matters, and the speed of the glucose matters. And so with brain fog, sometimes people also restrict food groups that provide the highest quality and amount of glucose, or you need to slow down those glucose. So there's a concept of glucose is that it's the smallest sugar molecule, and it is what feeds the brain. Like I said, the brain doesn't save it for later. If it's not there, it's not there. So I'm going to tell you, you're going to have more brain problem, brain fog, crashing, not being able to think, regardless of your EBV status, if you are skimping on carbs because your doctors have told you that you should limit your carbs, or you feel you don't tolerate carbs. That's a conversation you should have with someone trained in clinical nutrition to discern why you have sensitivity to carbs, what's going on, so you don't have to restrict entire food groups. So with the brain, the worst thing you can do, and this is what I see in the general population, when it comes to lunch, people will eat a salad and maybe chicken because they're on a weight loss diet. Majority of our community is trying to lose weight as well. Some people actually are underweight and trying to gain it, so it depends. But majority, you want to restrict carbs because you're trying to lose weight. And if you do that for lunch, that will backfire. You will have a lot of brain fog and you will crash around 3 p.m. That's probably a different conversation for a different topic about adrenals and the 3 p.m. and another training I should do. However, it does link into the brain and its need for glucose. So in order to minimize that brain fog, remember to have antioxidants, enjoy the fruits on their own, and then have steady meals and provide some complex, rich carb foods from whole foods for your meals, especially lunch. So let me give you some examples. Again, it could be, lunch would be perfect if you have, let's say, a poor people's meal, black beans, brown rice, a little bit of guacamole maybe, or salsa, or pico de gallo. Very simple combination if you have to eat out. And if you are at home, you can make a one-pot meal. When you have a sturdy soup, you throw in maybe some garbanzo beans or white beans, and then maybe pre-cooked brown rice or quinoa, or even brown rice pasta, or some chopped white potatoes with skins, or sweet potatoes without skins. And then you put all your antioxidants like ginger, onion, garlic, a lot more value vegetables, carrot. Throw everything you can in that one pot. Add a lot of culinary spices and herbs because they have high antioxidant value and high antiviral value. And then you can reheat that soup and eat it again and again. It's a balanced meal, so your brain will get a little bit of that glucose from those starchy foods. And it's important because these particular starchy foods have fiber, so you can slow down that glucose. Slow glucose is important. Slow glucose is good glucose. That's why candy is not a good idea. But if you have a balanced meal, when you have a lot of fiber, fiber slows down that glucose. Two more things that will slow down that sugar getting into the brain, which is good, slow and steady, so you have more energy and more focus longer without crashing and burning, is if you add a little bit of healthy fat and you have a little bit of healthy protein. So what do I mean? If you have a one-pot soup, when you're ready to eat, you can drizzle it with good quality olive oil. Voila, there's your fat. For protein, quinoa is complete protein. So if you have quinoa as part of that meal, there we go. And legumes, beans, split peas, they also have protein. So you balance that soup this way or that meal this way, and then you have a lot of everything and a lot of fiber, a lot of good complex carbs that are balanced and slowed down. So then suddenly you have those glucose molecules slow and steady coming into your brain for extended period of time. And remember also to eat lunch by 1:30. You have to sit down and eat a big lunch by 1:30, and just notice what happens with my brain. How much brain fog do I have when I have a salad and animal protein? Do I tank at 3? Can I even work my brain? And what happens if I actually balance this the way I'm suggesting? One more thing I'm going to say before we go is intermittent fasting is not the best approach to foods at the place where you are. If you have chronic EBV, that's not the best time for it. You need steady meals. And ketogenic diet, yes, you can do ketogenic diet. However, it will backfire because hard on the liver. It's not the best fit for EBV. And the brain can adjust to ketones after maybe 4 days on this kind of diet, but it's really too much fat. It's going to be hard on your gallbladder, hard on your liver, and it's not sustainable. It's a harder way to live. It's not necessary. And then that can also exclude entire food groups that are high in antioxidants, so it's not worth it for it. So that's how far I would go.